at the macro level, a lot of people are afraid of losing their jobs to AI, right? There's a recent Harris poll that said most workers are wary of generative AI and 50% don't trust this technology. And then at the micro level, we've got a lot of folks, especially in the creative community, that are understandably freaked out by what generative AI apps like DALL-E 2, Midjourney, and Stable Diffusion can do. Now, you recently at South by Southwest said the key thing for us to meet this moment is to chill and flow.
Yes.
Which is a very welcome message, I think. And I'd love for you to tell us a little bit more about that and any additional advice that you have for creatives in particular who are afraid that AI is going to disrupt their work or identity.
Well, first, from my perspective, is to acknowledge the fear, right? And is to acknowledge that there will be casualties. There will be loss of jobs. And what a lot of people are saying is that they believe that it's not going to be a loss completely of jobs, but you have to morph the way you do your job. And in any event, it's a loss. The other thing I think is important to realize is that in many ways, this is not new. And I mean that in the following ways. Number one, this is kind of version 2.0 of AI. I think version 1 was IoT, remember, Internet of Things. That was something that was like top of mind only like 5 to 10 years ago, where we were talking about the interconnectivity of objects and of nodes and networks through technology. That version was really affecting blue collar factory workers, right? We were talking about how robotics was going to be taking over and has taken over a lot of factory jobs. Yeah. And what's striking the fear of God in so many people now is that this version is really affecting knowledge workers, as you put it, people who work in the creative economy. It's a whole different animal because now things like ChatGPT are seemingly replacing our ability to think. And before I talk about ChatGPT and my note of encouragement and optimism is that another example that we learn where we see evidence that every introduction of a new technology, there's fear. I'm assuming I wasn't alive then, but when the phonograph was first introduced, some people thought, oh my gosh, people will never go to live music events anymore because they can just hear the live music recorded. And of course, we know that did not happen, right? So I think if we have some historical hindsight perspective, we can assuage some of our fears. And the other way I like to assuage people's fears is to understand that if you played even a little bit with something like ChatGPT, then you are astutely aware that you still need to be really good at asking questions. And
yes,
that is the case for the coder who designed the algorithm, as well as for people who are engaging in the technology. There's now a new job role called a prompt engineer, which wasn't even a thing pre-pandemic 2-3 years ago. And these are people who are really good and tasked with asking and framing different questions to feed into the algorithm. So that means that we still need to up the ante in our ability to think critically, to frame questions, to know how to frame and reframe questions, and frankly, to use our imagination. Computer technology still cannot tap the level of imagination that we as humans have access to. In part, I go back to my point about we are sentient beings. We have an ability to sense make in our environment, which stems from interoception, connected to the vagus nerve in our body, as well as perioception. And that really matters in terms of the sense that we make from our environment, the sorts of questions that we can ask, and therefore the amount of creativity that we can build as a capacity. I still feel very optimistic about our ability to do that.